Today, Thomas said, we're going to talk about candidate or applicant selection, and we're going to be discussing a few things, and we've got four delegates today, namely Emily, we've got Henry, we've got Percy, and we've got Gordon. So let's start off with talking about the idea of how you gather the data to make a selection decision, said Thomas. We're going to look at the jobs. Hopefully we've got an up-to-date job description. And from that, we're going to pull out what are the KSAOs. Anybody know what they are? Yes, I do, said Percy. KSAO is knowledge, skills, attributes and other. Yeah, very good. And then we're going to look at competencies. Anybody know what they are? And Emily said, well, I thought a competency was a sort of mixture of motives and traits and skills and self-image. But I'm not too sure. Anybody want to elaborate on that? Yeah, what I would describe it as, says Henry, is groups of related behaviours needed for successful job performance within an organisation. Very good. And then we're also going to look at candidate preferences. What does the candidate want to do? What are they most comfortable doing? So Thomas said, when we're assessing candidates, we look at, well, what are their competencies, what are their preferences, what are their KSAOs. We try and look at some sort of assessment that will answer the questions, what can they do, what have they done, and what do they want to do. So we need to define what we're looking to find in this assessment. We need to then measure it. We need to decide if that's been met and evaluate the process. So define the job, measure the traits, make the decision and evaluate the impact. So we can have some fears, said Thomas, about assessment. Anybody think what they might be? Well, said Henry, I would say I'm going to feel like I'm being judged. I'm being feel like I might make a mistake, I might mess up. I might be exposed to things that I'm not comfortable with, or situations I'm not comfortable with. And also, said Percy, it may be a waste of time and money. Absolutely, said Thomas. Could be all of those things. When we have ex-offenders, then perhaps we need to be thinking, well, can we take an objective assessment so we're not discriminating against ex-offenders by focusing on their KSAO, look at the nature of their conviction and how relevant it is to the job, identify any risk there are to the organisation in terms of its business, its customers, its clients and employees. We need to recognise that having a criminal record doesn't always mean having a lack of KSAOs, and note that we find that a lot of people come out of prison with a lot of training that they've obtained while in prison. So we agree policies up front, we inform applicants about the policy, we explain to employees that we give ex-offenders a fair chance of employment, and we review any insurance arrangements that could be invalidated from hiring ex-offenders. Another type of person that we could be hiring are contractors. So we need to review the needs of the organisation, establish requirements that we have there as well, said Thomas. So let's look at how contractors are screened. Look at what services and jobs they do. Look at how we can understand and evaluate their performance. Is the screening going to be handled internally or externally? Are we going to insist on compliance from contractors even though they're not formal employees? And if so, we're going to communicate that compliance to them. We may involve a screening partner to outsource a screening of contractors. But above all, we need to establish what our needs are, put them together in terms of requirements, communicate and monitor it. So one of the things, says Thomas, that regularly comes up is that when you're selecting applicants, they don't get enough feedback. They don't get enough feedback on why they're unsuccessful. So it's really important we do that to enhance our employer brand. So we rally the leaders in the organisation to support the process and ensure buy-in. We create a training programme so that we can have managers learning on how to give feedback and what notes to take in order to provide quite objective feedback when required. We look at some interviews and see if they're being conducted correctly. We follow up with some unsuccessful candidates to see what their experience was of the feedback process, and we develop a methodology to evaluate and use the feedback as part of decision making after then. It's very important also that we put some baselines together, says Thomas. We keep going on about this concept of KSAO, knowledge, skills, attributes and others. What is the baseline? What is acceptable? What is unacceptable? What is very good? And therefore we're determining, is that person capable of achieving that baseline when they join us to work here? We need to calculate the return on investment of our selection as well. Return on investment is very, very important at the moment. More and more people are looking at, well, how can we justify the cost of HR, and selection provides us with a really good tool on how to demonstrate that in terms of numbers, which not every aspect of the HR role allows us to do so. So we can look at, well, how many people are resigning based on their salary, based on the people that are involved with interviewing and selecting those people, and their hourly rate, and based on how long the positions are vacant for. So let's put some figures together in terms of how many people resign, what sort of salary is the average salary they resign at, how much it costs to fill a position, and how long the positions are vacant for. And then we can put some figures together to calculate, well, is lost productivity a result of having the position filled? Are we losing time on getting up to speed? The customer service experience is less because it's an inexperienced person. Are we engaging in a lot of onboarding and orientation costs? All of these need taken into account, on top of things like severance pay, like travel costs for interview, like the cost of interview, the hiring of rooms, the cost of the assessment process, the time spent screening, reference checks, and also perhaps in some cases, perhaps more senior people, the cost of relocation as well. So all of this is important in determining, well, how can we make our selection process more effective and save us money. Thank you for joining us today, and look forward to speaking to you again soon.